Bases dropped on a Tuesday Matchday edition on a number of fronts. Atlanta United plays tonight in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup in Columbus, Ohio. The U.S. men's national team plays tonight in Minnesota in their Gold Cup opener against Guyana. We have the Women's World Cup, Copa America, other Gold Cup action, all kinds of stuff. It's the summer of soccer continuing, and it's starting to get a little crazy with all the games. Women's World Cup this afternoon, two big games, and we'll get into that as well. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning. Use the hashtag Tuesday Thoughts if you want to chime in on Twitter. Share your thoughts on Atlanta United, on the U.S. men's national team, on the Women's World Cup action. Anything that's on your mind this morning, tweet at us at Soccer Down Here, and we'll get into it. We've got a few things we need to get into. We've got some corruption arrests, or at least I don't know what the correct legal term would be. I don't know if it's an arrest in France in this situation with Michel Platini. He's been gathered.
Police custody.
Yes, he has been gathered into police custody. How about that? All in association with the awarding of the 2022 World Cup to Qatar. But it's still going to happen there because, stuff. But yeah, this has kicked up another notch after he was banned from FIFA, and Sepp Blatter was banned, and then their bans were cut, and then now you're at this point. We'll get into that as we get a little more information. That all broke this morning as well. I want to talk about a study that was just released by Front Office Sports as well, and it's kind of interesting when you compare soccer fans to other fans, and this is a conversation I think comes up with us a lot, and I think it's something that probably American soccer looks at a lot more often than other countries just because of the competition and the relative newness of professional club soccer in the United States. It's different. Young American soccer fans, according to this study from Bleacher Report, are different and they think differently than traditional football or baseball fans. And right now, with the summer of soccer, it's an interesting time for advertisers to try to figure this stuff out. More than 40% of U.S. soccer fans say finding a player they like has made them a bigger fan. And that's similar to NBA fans. You kind of grab onto a player as opposed to a club. But I think what's unique with soccer fans is that you get both. And I think some of that, John, is down to the nature of just there's so many teams and leagues around the world that the part about 86% of fans support the first club they ever followed. That's pretty typical across all sports. That's a normal number. So you have that, but you have a very large percentage who say that an individual player has motivated their fandom or made them a bigger fan. I think that's the wide-ranging world of soccer that allows you to do both in a lot of ways.
And when you're looking at the megastars, and you're looking at Neymar, Ronaldo, Messi, etc., I wonder if, say, in the case of a Neymar, or more recently a Cristiano Ronaldo, if you are still wearing that first kit that attracted you to that player, or you're continuing to buy the gear going down the line. Because if you're locked into that first club, you buy that first gear.
Yeah, but you're looking at it in a very narrow way, John. I don't think it's necessarily that your first club you found because of Lionel Messi. I think you have both happening. I think a lot of times, and now in the United States more than ever, you have a kid growing up in Kansas City who is a Sporting Kansas City fan, and that's what they know, and that's their club. But they watch highlights, or they play the FIFA video games, or they see a Champions League game, and they're like, man, I really like Messi. I'm going to watch Barcelona games now. And they do both. I don't I think you're looking at it in a different way. This is about American fans, and I don't think it's necessarily like, okay, then they don't follow their original club. That's not what the study's saying. The study's saying they stick with their original club. But it's not necessarily saying their original club is decided by that player, because I think that's where it gets more tribal. I mean, I can speak to it from other sports. For me, I mean, I grew up in Atlanta. The first club in baseball was the Braves. First NFL team was the Falcons. Basketball is the Hawks. For college, it was Georgia for me. But as a kid, there were individual players that I really liked. And there were teams that I liked for certain periods of time. I loved the Miami Dolphins with Dan Marino and Mark Duper and Mark Clayton. A lot of fun to watch. I liked the St. Louis Cardinals with Ozzie Smith, one of my all-time favorite players. That's, I think, what this is all about. It's not that you go away. It's not that the player decides your original club, because then I don't think that's happening as much here, where their first association now anyway is with a player like that. I think a lot of it is that they have a club, but a player's attracting them to a second club.
And if you have that wide-ranging perspective, I think what that does is it'll give you, say your first club is MLS for whatever reason, your first player is MLS. Take your Sporting Kansas City example. You know, if you're growing up and you're a, Beasler Zusi fan, what have you, and then because of what you're seeing through television or Fanatis or whatever service you buy, if you're attracted to other things, I would hope that adds to, one, viewing habits and things that you stick to. And at the same time, you get to spread that, hey, I saw this. And then that way, while you have that team that you're attached to coming out of the blocks, I think that what this also does is it allows you to spread your favoritism, your fanaticism of other leagues and other players with other folks if they don't have the opportunities to see them first. You can sit there and you can continue to attract other people to other leagues and other teams and other players around the world. And I would hope that that's the case when you're doing this kind of stuff these days.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
kind of a spreading of the wealth, I guess.
But yeah, that's a no-brainer. I mean, let's get back into the study, because I think we're getting off track with it. So 40% of U.S. soccer fans say finding a player they like has made them a bigger fan, but that doesn't mean they're abandoning their first club they followed. That's 86% that follow their first club. One other thing that was really interesting, I thought, in this is that Bleacher Report has found that there's a lot of crossover between NBA fans and soccer fans.
I think to your point,
they're taking advantage of it. Bleacher Report's found 60% overlap between soccer and basketball fans in their Bleacher Report app. And that's why it wasn't a surprise that for the Champions League final, Turner brought out Trae Young and Luka Doncic to be part of that coverage, because it makes sense, and it's kind of unique in the sports world with this. A couple other things that are, I think, showing the overall reach of the game. 9 of the top 10 most followed athletes on Instagram are soccer players. The only other athlete to be in that top 10, LeBron James. So when you start but when you start to look at, your FIFA, your Major League Soccer, your Soccer United marketing, you're trying to figure these things out, this is the one that is unique, and this is a very soccer-specific thing. 63% of soccer fans prefer to watch a full game over highlights. That's very different than other sports. I think that's the nature of soccer. I think it's just the nature of the way the game is. It's the nature of, all the things that we get into about, possession and build-up play, and it's not something that always comes out in the highlight. And I think the emotional swings of a match are as much of the story as just the goal, as just the highlight. I don't think this would have been the case probably 15, 20 years ago. I think now it is. And if you're an advertiser, that's pretty exciting because it's hard to grab other sports fans if they're preferring to watch highlights or if they're just comfortable watching highlights all the time. But if you're trying to grab soccer fans, well, you need to get your advertising into a game, whether it's on a signboard, whether it's on a score bug, whether it's a sponsored segment, things like that. It's really important in the soccer world to try to get inside the game with your advertising dollars.
For me, I have come to notice and appreciate the idea that soccer fans want context. They want the depth and the understanding of why something happened. They just don't want to see what happened. They want to talk about buildup. They want to talk about formation. They want to talk about context and situation. And you can't do that by staring at something in 7-second clips. You know, how many people in other sports, let's just say you're a fan of baseball, how many baseball fans sit there and say, yeah, can you break down can you believe how this pitcher sat there and he broke this count down and he started with a fastball low and away and then he went in on the hands and then he went high and tight. You never get that kind of discussion in basketball.
It's a much smaller subset who do that. I mean, I've seen some of it where it's like they break down a pitcher versus a hitter, and if it goes, the hitter's fouling the ball off a bunch of times, working the pitcher, that type of stuff. Like I've seen where they break that down, but they speed up the highlight. They go through the whole at bat. It's a very small subset that are craving that type of content.
And in basketball, can you believe that with 3:27 to go in the second quarter, when you're down 6, they went 1-4 high and tried to break down the defensive formation that way. I've found that soccer fans like depth. They like to see things evolve. They like to look at things over the span of an entire match and can sit there and can compare and contrast chunks as opposed to sitting there, and to your point, with the idea of breaking down an 11-pitch at bat by showing everything quickly with dissolves in baseball. And for me, there was a news study that came out, I want to say a couple weeks ago, where the younger viewers of news programs actually want context with their stories. They don't just want to sit there and have headline. They want to have a deep dive, and they want to sit there and see things over a 15 or a 20-minute span so they can have full understanding of what's going on. And when you mentioned that particular stat about soccer fans wanting to see entire matches, 5 out of every 8, that was what stuck with me as well, is that you're having people moving their way toward wanting to see things in their full context, as opposed to just cookie cutter chop it up and seeing something in 30 seconds where you're not getting everything over the span of a match.
Well, that goes with the other numbers that I think advertisers are going to be real happy about. 36% of fans aged 26 to 39 years old became soccer fans due to their friends, compared to 26% of those aged 13 to 17. So there's this thing about wanting to be with other fans and take it in with other fans. And the study indicates, quote, there's a core group of soccer fans who evangelize the sport and want others to join them. Also, and this is from a previous study, Magna Global released it in 2018, TV viewers are averaging 40 years of age for MLS. It's the youngest fan base among the major U.S. sports leagues. That's critical for the growth of this league overall. And I know people point at TV numbers and say, well, they're not good. That's the number that makes up some of the volume, is that it is the place to definitely get a younger audience. And when you compare it to something like the PGA Tour, which has always done great with sponsorships, and I mean, that's what it's been built on, is sponsorships. The average age of a PGA Tour viewer is 64. Average age of an MLS match viewer is 40. Big difference, and it changes the type of companies that are getting in. And when you combine that with people want to watch the whole match, pretty good numbers if you're MLS and if you're just U.S. soccer in general about trying to connect to fans. And I think there's a lot of potential to maybe look at things in different ways than they have in the past.
And I mean, you're seeing sponsors from places that you wouldn't have normally attached things to sports. And I think that speaks a lot to those businesses that want to try to attract the soccer fan. I mean, if you watch golf, it's high-end cars, it's high-end equipment, it's IT and things like that are reaching that 64-ish average when it comes to fans. But I think that when you're looking at soccer billboards, inboards, advertising, it's that younger stuff and that younger attachment that's getting there. And I think that you're seeing a lot of younger, newer companies that are seeing that number when it comes to the MLS average viewer, and they're sitting there and saying, okay, I think I can gravitate toward that particular individual with my new business. And so I think that with new sets of eyes, younger sets of eyes, and new businesses, I think that makes a whole lot of sense for MLS.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not trying to get the businesses that are advertising to 64-year-olds on the PGA Tour. They're not as interested in what you're doing with MLS, but businesses that are trying to advertise to a younger crowd, they're not going
and
to
make their names coming out of the blocks. Yeah.
It's not even coming out of the blocks. That has nothing to do with it. There's plenty of established companies that are, trying to appeal to a younger crowd. It's your audience, and MLS has the youngest audience, and that's going to help them across the board. And now they just have to get better at exploiting that and selling it and continuing to grow. And they have over the years. I mean, you look at the number of partnerships and you look at the advertising, it is like astronomical compared to what it used to be. There's still a lot of room for the league to grow, and studies like this are a big help. But that crossover between soccer fans and basketball fans kind of jumps out to me. And with Turner now on Champions League, I wonder if that type of stuff, with Turner so well entrenched with the NBA and obviously wanting to continue with that, if that next TV deal that comes up for MLS and for United States soccer and all of it, I wonder if Turner becomes a player in that and look to cross over these things a little bit more. It would honestly make some sense for them from their business perspective, and we'll see if they invest more in it. I think there were mixed reactions, I think would be fair to say, this season with Champions League on Turner. There was good and bad. I think there's a lot of room for it to improve. I did think it improved over the year. I think they tried to do a lot of difficult stuff early on, like the 2 studios, for example. It's just hard. It's hard to do that stuff remotely. I think once they got it down to 1 studio, it was better, and it's just finding their voice. And that would probably be the one thing that I thought they struggled with. They struggled to find the voice of the competition, and I think that just comes with time. So keep an eye on what's going on with Bleacher Report, Turner. Keep an eye on these types of studies because they are important, and I think they do kind of help you see where the game can go in the next couple of decades. Let's take a break, come back. Let's get into the matches today. We've obviously got Atlanta United at Columbus. Doug Robertson from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution will be joining us in hour number 2. We have the U.S. men's national team and Guyana opening the Gold Cup. We've also got 2 big games in the Women's World Cup at 3 o'clock, and we'll talk about all of that after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 18th. Tuesday Thoughts, Matchday edition. Get on the Twitters at Soccer Down here. Let us know what you're thinking about all of the matches today. Let's start with the Women's World Cup because Group C is craziness, and that's the one that finishes up today. Nobody expected going into the final match day that it would be Italy that is holding all of the cards in this group. Italy plays Brazil. Australia plays Jamaica. Jamaica has not won in the tournament. You would expect Australia will win and get 3 points. That would move them to 6. Italy wins the group with a draw against Brazil. A loss, and then you have 3 teams on 6 points. All of them will go through, but where they finish depends on score lines. When you look at goal differential right now, Italy has that pretty dominantly, so they should win the group in that scenario. They're +6 right now. Brazil is +2. Australia is 0, but you would expect Australia to flip theirs fairly healthily against Jamaica today. This is important because of where things fall in when you start to look at the bracket and who could play who. And a lot of it comes down to a team that I picked to win the thing, and I think a lot of people picked to win the thing, in France, the hosts, who have not looked convincing in their last 2 group games. They needed some help from the video assistant referee to beat Norway. I didn't like that call. The call yesterday against Nigeria should have been made on the field, and that was my biggest issue with it, is that's not a call, the trip in the 18, that's not a call that should go to VAR. The referee on the field has to make that call. It's not to say that it doesn't, but when it does, that's a sign that the referee, I think, blew it on the field. So then, on top of that, you get the penalty. You take the penalty. Goalkeeper comes off the line. It doesn't matter by how much, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it was barely off the line, so it shouldn't be called. That
barely is barely. Still, you're off the line.
It's off the line. And in VAR, in the new world of VAR, it's yes or no. And I thought from one of the replays that there was still a possibility her heel was on the line, but it looks like it was raised. So, I mean, she was barely off. Now, the barely off doesn't affect if it's a call or not. You have to retake that. In my opinion, the addition to the rule, and it's a very important addition to the rule about goalkeepers' feet on the line. You don't have to have 2 feet on the line now. You only have to have 1. But if you are caught not with your feet on the line, and it is called and a kick is retaken, it is an automatic yellow card. There is no leeway for a referee. And when you watch the kick, Wendy Renard is doing what a kicker is going to do. They're going to have a little bit of hesitation. She didn't come to a full stop. She didn't break the rules about taking the kick. But you're doing the hesitation to throw the keeper off and make them move. So now, because of everybody doing what is supposed to happen in this scenario, goalkeeper gets fooled, you're giving a yellow card. I hate that, because sooner rather than later, you're going to have a keeper sent off in a shootout on yellow cards. You're going to have a keeper get a second yellow either in the shootout or had a yellow in the match coming in and get a second yellow in a shootout. And then you're going to have a field player have to put on a keeper jersey and put on the gloves and be in a shootout. It's going to happen. It's an awful addition to that rule. Give the referee leeway. If the goalkeeper is 5 feet off their line, if they're intentionally coming off their line to try to throw somebody off, give the yellow card. That's fine. Add it as a possible yellow card. In this scenario, the goalkeeper got fooled. It's already punishment enough to have to retake it for getting fooled. There's no need for that yellow card. I hate that decision, and it's going to have a bad effect on the game. The other side that I don't like about that's part of this scenario. So that is now under the purview of a video assistant referee. It wasn't before. It is now. That's why we haven't seen this until the U20 World Cup was the first competition where it became part of the VAR's oversight. What I don't like is that VAR can look at the goalkeeper coming off the line, can look at the kicker coming to a complete stop. They cannot get involved on encroachment. That's down to the referees on the field. That's ridiculous. If all of the scenarios for retaking a kick or ruling out a good kick are there, and that is part of them, VAR should look at the whole package. Because what's the penalty for it? It's the same as the others. If the goalkeeper comes off their line or if a defender encroaches, you're retaking a missed kick. If an attacking player encroaches, kick's ruled out. VAR has to be able to look at that as well. It can't be one and the other. That's not fair. It's not balanced. It's not what it should be. These are the things that in the new world of VAR, I think rules are getting magnified so much more than they ever did. In the new world of just social media and clips and those highlights being everywhere, we're all seeing it. IFAB is going to have to work quicker to make these adjustments. This can't continue for 5 years like this. This needs to be something that competitions are looking at right now and making decisions on, we don't want that automatic yellow card. And, we're either going to have our video assistant referees look at everything around a penalty kick, or no, it's just down to the referees on the field to make all the decisions. It can't be picking and choosing, and it can't be these situations that I think are bad for the game. We'll see what happens. And it's something we've talked a lot about on our World Cup dates as we break down all the Women's World Cup action, because it's been a big storyline. I hate it because the soccer as a whole in this tournament has been very good and very compelling. So let's try to get back to that. France has not looked all that compelling and convincing in their last two matches. When you look at the knockout round and who they could be facing, they're going to face a third-place team. It is all but, it's not definite, but they will likely be seeing the third-place team from Group C, which would be one of Italy, Brazil, or Australia. Brazil and Australia are two teams that a lot of people were high on coming into the event. Australia I had as a finalist. They have not looked it. They finally looked it in the second half against Brazil. Can they continue that? We'll have to wait and see. Brazil, been there, done that. We know their talent. Italy has been the biggest surprise of the tournament. Whichever one of them finished third in that group, that's a tough match for France. That's a really tough match for France. And I think the team they would probably want to see would be Italy, but I think the team that they're most likely to see is going to be Brazil. And do you want to be in a knockout game if you're France at home where you can see the pressure is already starting to hit this team against Marta and Cristiane? No. That's frightening. France is going to be in trouble in that round of 16. They're going to have to pick it up.
And when we did our predictions and we did the analysis, the 90-minute show that we did before everything came up and they started kicking the ball around for real, my Group C was Australia, Brazil, and Italy. Bottom line, I will stipulate to that backwards, forwards, and upside down. So
no. Yeah, all that's great. But where did you have Italy?
I had them third.
Exactly. That's the whole point, John. That's what I'm talking about.
I know.
Nobody had Italy winning.
And that's what I'm
group.
saying. This is the surprise for me of my entire grid.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not Italy that is in line right now to play France. And that's what we were all thinking. It's Brazil or Australia, and that's a different conversation altogether.
That's huge. Yep. That is, you're in the first round of knockouts, and you could be facing Australia or Brazil, and you were thinking it was going to be one thing, and it's going to end up being, odds are it's going to end up being something else. And for a team that has just kind of scuffed their way through the way that France has, and you're going to get this one, you got to get your head screwed on straight pretty quick. And if you're going to make it through and then possibly face the United States in the round of 8, but you've got to get through either Brazil or Australia to get to the United States if you're France right now. That's a tall order.
Yeah. Yep. There is one scenario that they would not see the third place team from that group, and they would see the third place team from Group E. I don't see that one as very realistic. I think France is going to see Brazil because the results today, I think Italy gets a result to win the group. Even if it's a narrow loss, I think they get the result they need to win the group. I think they get a draw. I think they come in and play somewhat defensive and try to hit on the counter. They could win, but I think at a minimum they get a draw. Australia wins fairly comfortably and moves into second, and Brazil falls into that third place spot, and they go up in a game against France. Now, France is a better team. France should win that, but it's a whole different challenge than you expected coming into the event.
Mm-hmm. And to have one of the threes come in with 6 points, because I know that a lot of times we're looking at one of the third place teams coming through and it's a 3-pointer with some help or a 4-pointer going 1-1-1 in group play. To have a team coming up with 6 points as a third place team.
Well, that's if Brazil beats Italy, and that's a reach for me. I just don't see that happen. I think Italy's too good defensively.
And so you've got Brazil coming in with 4 points at 1-1-1, and Australia coming in with, in theory, beating Jamaica. They would have 6 points, and they would be second in the group.
Yeah, when you look at the third place teams, if you get to 4, you're going to move on. China has already sealed their spot as a third place team that is advancing. Right now, Australia is the next best third place team on 2 matches played. They're better on goal differential than Nigeria. Nigeria is kind of right there on the bubble. They're third out of the third place teams at the moment. Argentina, Cameroon, and Chile are the ones who will be trying to catch what Nigeria has done. Argentina would go past them if they beat Scotland. Scotland winning would be their first 3 points, and then you're having to look at goal differential. You look at Cameroon and Chile, and they're both in a similar situation with Group E and Group F. The top 2 teams have 6 points. They're playing each other in the final day, and the 2 teams with 0 points are playing each other in the final day. Chile playing Thailand on the final day feels like a game Chile should win. They're on -5 right now. Nigeria has set that mark at 3 points and -2. So that means Chile would have to win 3-0 to equal where Nigeria is. Possible, not a definite, not a definite at all. Cameroon's on -3 at the moment. They play New Zealand, which I think is a more challenging one. New Zealand's on -3. New Zealand, I don't know how many goals they have in them. I could see them winning it. I don't know if they win it by much, but they're only 1 goal behind where Nigeria is. So if, let's say, New Zealand or Cameroon win 1-0, then they're equal with Nigeria in the ranking of third-place teams. It's going to come down to that final match with Chile and Thailand to decide which third-place teams are going, and there could be some serious shenanigans as that gets on towards the end. I do think Brazil will be the third-place team that'll face France, and that will be a doozy in the round of 16. Going to be fascinating as we get to this point, as the bracket starts to get filled out. It's going to be really, really fascinating. I am not with the conversation about the U.S. throwing the last game against Sweden.
Okay, so we had that yesterday, and I looked at that, and the first thing I thought was clickbait. That was the first thing that I honestly thought, or someone who clickbait.
No, not at all. I mean, this happens in tournaments. It's not a completely uncommon thing, but look, there's a difference. Do you come? You're not going to come in and throw the game. Forget that. Do you come in and rest everybody to say, well, if we don't get the result, then we're not going to be all that unhappy about it? I just don't think your pathway really changes that much. I mean, that's, to me, what it comes down to is, okay, instead of playing Spain in the round of 16 and then France in Paris in a quarterfinal, you would be playing either Canada or the Netherlands in the round of 16, which is a more difficult opponent, in my opinion, either one. And then you'd be playing Germany in the quarterfinals, and Germany's been the best team in the tournament so far. So either pathway, it's the same thing. I honestly think the one against France right now looks better.
And I didn't see any long-term benefit to just chucking the third match because of the rotation that you had in match 2, getting everybody back out there for match 3, getting you ready for the knockout stage. To me, it was too many machinations to sit there and say, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and toss match 3 and then bring out your number 1 lineup again for the first time for the knockout, but you haven't seen them since match day 1.
People don't think when they say stuff like this. Like, they think, well, we don't want to play France, the hosts, in Paris in a quarterfinal. And no, you don't. I mean, if you get to choose, no, you don't. But you don't really want to play Germany in a quarterfinal either, and you don't want a tougher round of 16 opponent. Spain is an easier round of 16 opponent than either Canada or the Netherlands. Either one. Mm-hmm. And you'll know which one it would be by the time you go into that match with Sweden, but you want no part of a rivalry match in a round of 16. Go ask Mexico how that turned out in 2002. And you don't want the Dutch, who are the defending European champions and have one of the best attacks in the world. I don't think you want either one. So you just play the tournament as it's laid out. And you need to get better. And you need to play and be convincing against a team in Sweden that will test you like no team in the tournament has so far. We'll be back with the World Cup date today, right after the action finishes up, to catch you up on Group C and who's playing where. The runners-up of Group C, which, according to the predictions that I just gave you, would be Australia. They would go in to play Norway in the round of 16, which is a tricky game. Norway's an under-the-radar team for me. The winners of Group C, where are they? They would play either China or Nigeria in the round of 16. And if that's Italy, that's another winnable game. Either way, if Italy wins this group, they get that one instead of Norway. So they have motivation to go out and get a draw today. Then they go into a quarterfinal where they would play probably either the Dutch or Canada. And the way Italy's played, that's winnable. That is absolutely winnable. Italy can be the surprise of this tournament and get to a semifinal. I really think they can with their defense and with their counterattacking. So we will catch you up on everything after the action finishes today. World Cup date will be back right after the final whistles this afternoon. We're going to take a break, come back, get you caught up on Atlanta United news and U.S. men's national team news ahead of their matches this evening. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 18th. Atlanta United in action tonight. Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup round of 16 in Ohio, facing the Columbus Crew. And when I pull up Reddit and some of the latest posts on Reddit, and I see on the Crew subreddit, chances the game will be stormed out today. I get triggered and completely freak out because, I've been through this. Luckily, I will not be there this time. Flash flood watch is already in effect in southwestern Ohio. With the ground already saturated, additional showers and embedded thunderstorms today could result in new instances of flash flooding. Rain looks like kind of throughout the day it's 40% or so, but steady all day long. Not sure about the storming side of it, so if it's just rain, they're going to play. We have that experience. We know that's going to happen.
Lake Mopfrey.
Well, that was a whole lot of rain in a short period of time, and it's not going to be dropping 20 degrees either. So, look, that stadium, the field is one of the best in the league. It does drain really well, but when you get that much at a time, nobody's dealing with it well. Shower and thunderstorm this afternoon. Let's see if we can get some timing here. Mostly cloudy, a couple of showers and a thunderstorm. Humid 77 is the high for the day. In the afternoon, come on, AccuWeather, you can work better than this.
Look at it this way. At least Cantori's not going to be there live, I don't think.
Well, no, it's not to that degree. Let's not overblow it here, but it's not going to be pleasant, and there is a very good chance of potential delays with thunderstorms in the forecast. So showers and thunderstorms throughout the day is what it's looking like. Temperatures will be in the 70s. Half an inch of rain this evening is what I'm seeing. So it's not going to be pleasant. We will be over at Hampton and Hudson and Inman Park to watch this for however long it takes to see a final result. We're going to do pre-match coverage starting at 6 o'clock like we did last time around. There's no radio. For those of you who might have missed it with the last Open Cup match, ESPN has all of the rights to the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup. The streaming and radio was involved in it, so teams cannot do local radio. We weren't the only ones affected by it. But no local radio, so SDH will hop in and give you a pregame show that'll be available on the app, on the website, on Spreaker, starting at 6 o'clock, and we'll be back for a post-match show of some sort after the match ends.
Weather permitting?
That happens. No, we'll have a post-match show. There's no weather permitting to a post-match show. We will have a post-match show. Just don't know when it's going to start. Sometime after the match.
Right.
That's all I got.
Yes. Therefore, it would be a post-match show.
Yes, that's the whole point. Yes, that's the name. It's true. It'll happen. It just don't know when. So, buckle up tonight, basically, is where you're at. How this affects lineup and those decisions, probably the field conditions will have a big part of that, and lineup might not be decided until, honestly, right before it's due, because it might not be the best playing conditions, and that could affect guys who have any kind of nagging injuries. I think it would definitely affect a player like Romario Williams, who appeared to have a groin injury at the end of the round of 32 match with Charleston. any kind of tweak from him would make it difficult to go on a wet field tonight. I would assume Brandon Vasquez will get the start up top. Beyond that, don't know. Ezequiel Barco trained with the team yesterday. He is available for selection by all accounts. I don't know if I'd start him. He'd be a great player to have off the bench in case he's needed. But I don't know if I would start him. Just depends on where he is, how he's feeling after his little break after the U20 World Cup. Just depending on how he's bounced back from that. No Julian Gressel tonight is one element that we know. No Tito Villalba tonight. We know that one as well. Tito is still in Argentina. And we've seen the questions, and I know it was a Thursday thought from Percy Herrera. Don't know anything about it. I wouldn't read into Tito Villalba posting pictures with San Lorenzo swag because he's done that for 3 years now, whether it's in Atlanta or in Argentina when he's been back visiting. So I don't think that means anything because that's been consistent. He's just still in Argentina, and I know part of his trip was getting treatment on the injury, but we don't know anything more than that. And I don't think it was mentioned yesterday in media availability with Frank de Boer, so not sure what that situation completely entails. Julian Gressel was muscle tightness, and I believe it was still listed as such from yesterday. He will be available, hopefully, for the Toronto match next Wednesday as the team gets back into league play. So line up today, and maybe that's an update for you. Maybe somebody's calling in an update to John.
Nah.
Probably not. Maybe it's Bleacher Report updating their study.
Yeah, really? That was someone in Bremen reaching out to me for some strange reason.
Oh, no telling. So lineup could be interesting today. Lineup will definitely be interesting on the Columbus side of it. Federico Higuain out for the rest of the year with a knee injury. Pedro Santos has been the one moving into the middle, and that presents a lot of question marks because he's primarily played on the wing for Columbus. Can he adjust to playing in the middle? Do you have to move anything else around to make that work? You don't have Will Trapp. You don't have Jossie Zardes. You don't have Zach Steffen anymore. Lots of absences for Columbus and how they deal with it. We'll have to see. They were not convincing against Pittsburgh last week in Open Cup. It was a 1-0 win. Pittsburgh had their chances. David Accam with the goal for the Crew. He would probably be your focal point tonight in the attack that Atlanta will have to deal with.
And Accam was asked about the Crew's recent play. And in the 12 games since these two teams last played, the Crew are 3-8-1, yet to lose in the month of June after the 2-2 draw with NYCFC and then beating Pittsburgh. But David Accam says we're still trying to find it because against Pittsburgh we got the chances. On a different day, we should be scoring like 3 or 4 goals. It'll come with games through training. I have confidence in my teammates. I've seen what they can do in games and training. For me, I'm really positive it will come.
We'll see. It's hard when you're missing so many pieces, and that's the challenge for Caleb Porter right now. I'm curious for Porter's side of it, how aggressive he is in this. Now, they have a match this weekend. They play on Sunday. There are 6 MLS matches this weekend as the league returns to play. Not completely, but 12 teams playing anyway out of the 24. Yes?
No, I'm listening.
I thought
I
you
was getting up my fantasy standings.
Okay, well, maybe you were doing that and there was a weird noise. I was a little afraid. I thought maybe Bremen was chiming in again. Columbus hosts Sporting Kansas City at 5:30 on Sunday. Do they think about that match and this one, and do they maybe hold players back? Because remember, when you look at the league standings, Columbus Crew, not so good as of late. If they want to make the playoffs, league matches become a major priority for them. And this is where Atlanta has a little bit of an advantage. They're not back into league play until next Wednesday in Toronto, so they can pretty much go with this with as full strength as they want to. Won't be because you don't have Joseph Martinez, and Frank de Boer alluded to that. Like, he's expecting a mixed lineup because you want to get guys time. You want to get guys who have been on the fringes time. Brandon Vasquez performed well. You want to get him more time. Andrew Carlton, I thought, performed well, too. You want to get him more time. And you want to put them in places where it's not just throwing a second team out there, it's mixing them in. So you've got to have some of a mixed lineup, and I think Atlanta will do that tonight. How mixed? I think the mixing will be basically defined by injuries and availability. I don't think you're going to rest too many people. Very likely Alec Can will be in goal again. And we see that all the time where goalkeepers basically get the cup competition to themselves. Alec Can should. He doesn't really get many other chances to play outside of Atlanta United too. So give him the cup games. Brad Gazan can rest. Leandro Gonzalez-Perez was rested for the last one. Would he be back in today? Very possible. I think it'll be a mixed lineup. I think it'll be a strong lineup, and I think Atlanta on paper will have the advantage in the lineup. Now, can they take advantage of that on the field? We're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, and in the same article from the Dispatch, Caleb Porter said, we had some guys, obviously, that gained some confidence in the game, and we win an advanced tournament football. That's what it's about. It's about winning and advancing. The group looked hungry, end quote.
If you have players who are getting that opportunity, if you're Columbus, then, yeah, you're going to have to rely on the players who are showing that hunger. Columbus needs to find that in general, and the Cup could be their way to find that for some players who get a chance here, show well, and then get time in league matches because they got to find a spark on the league side. They have really, really struggled as of late. Let's take a break, come back, get into the Twitters after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by ATLUTD Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Let's get into some comments from the Twitters before we wrap up hour number one. What do we have, John?
We can go back to Thomas Gwynn on the discussion of VAR and penalties. He says he believes Christine Uncle said VAR can be used for encroachment of other players if they become involved in play.
Yes.
E.g., an encroaching player plays a rebound. Also agree 100% on auto yellow, dumb with 2 exclamation points.
Yeah, that's if they become involved in the play, that is correct. I should have clarified that. But just encroachment, which should result in a retake, they can't get involved in. So, for example, the French penalty that was retaken because of the goalkeeper coming off the line, I believe 3 French players had encroached, and VAR can't do anything about that. They can only do something about the goalkeeper. That's not right. That makes no sense. It's not logical. So the automatic yellow is just stupid and it's got to go. I guarantee you in this tournament, I think it's going to happen in this tournament because we've already seen I think video assistant referees who are maybe a little new to it, I think you're going to see in a shootout situation, in a knockout round game, a goalkeeper get a second yellow and get sent off, and a field player have to grab the jersey and the gloves because you can't make a substitution in the shootout. I think that's going to happen and decide somebody's fate. I really do, and I'm terrified to see the reaction to it.
All right, so let's see. From there, Shiva, if we were to go to penalties today, who should take them? And do you think Brad will ever take one? # Tuesday Thoughts.
I think he'd only take one if it got down to 10-11. I don't know where he is on the penalty kick taking list. I don't think I've ever seen him even like in shots from training, like messing around and doing it. So he's not one of those goalkeepers that would hop up and take it quickly. It's so hard to say who would take them today because of the potential with the lineup, and it won't be a normal lineup. Let's go to a normal lineup, like let's say in a knockout round playoff game. They're all knockout rounds now, so let's say it goes to penalties in a playoff game, and you have your full choice lineup, and everybody that you would want available is. They haven't been subbed out. There's no injuries. Joseph takes one, Barco takes one, Pitti takes one. I think those three are definite. Gressel takes one. If Villalba's on the field, he takes one. He would be the bigger question mark about being on the field at that stage with that group. Either him or Gressel, I think it'd be one or the other, maybe not both. So the other one, that's a good one. I don't know who the other one would be. Maybe Nagby? Nagby or Parkhurst would be the two that I keep coming back to. And I'm reluctant to go to Jeff or LGP because we saw them miss against Columbus in 2017, and that's just in my mind. I'd be fine if either one stepped up, but that would flash into my mind. I know that that's the case. So I think your first three are easy with Joseph, Barco, and Pitti. Beyond that, it's a little trickier to call.
Yeah, I would not anticipate a goalkeeper to be involved until round 11.
No, just for Gazan. No, to say I wouldn't expect a goalkeeper in general, no. I think there are some that would be, but in Atlanta's case, I don't think they have a goalkeeper that would take one earlier than that.
Let's see. And then Kessie asks, wouldn't it work if retakes happen for PKs but no cards unless persistent or egregious on retakes?
Yeah, 100%. I think giving referees the option to card coming off the line would be fine, and then they can judge it. I mean, the Nigerian goalkeeper tried to time it. She missed it by like a foot, if that. And she was thrown off by the kicker who was doing their job. Like, nobody was wrong in that scenario to earn a yellow. That's why it doesn't feel right. If it's egregious or if it's multiple, absolutely give a yellow. It should not be coded into the laws of the game that it is automatic. If you come off your line, even in that case, half a foot because the kicker hesitated as they should, you get an automatic yellow. And I know it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen in this competition. You're going to see in a shootout scenario where there's 5 kicks, a goalkeeper come off their line twice and get 2 yellows and get sent off. It's going to happen. And it's insane for that to happen in that scenario. But it has to, because that's the laws of the game now. It's wrong. And IFAB needs to change that now. This tournament needs to change it, because you get that happening in the Premier League this fall, people are going to lose their minds because they're not going to understand it, and everybody's going to yell and scream, and it's going to look really dumb. Get ready for it. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, hour number 2. Doug Robertson from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution joins us at 10:30 to help preview Atlanta and Columbus. Maybe we'll get a weather update at 10:30 as well. Let's get a MLS fantasy update right now, though, from our friend Jason Wright of the Jason Wright Agency. You have insurance needs. That is your dude. Go reach out to Jason Wright. Jason Wright, AGEN on Twitter. Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. Proud sponsor of the Soccer Down Here MLS Fantasy League. Week 15 was your final week in the spring season. FC Apogee was the one who dominated it. 124 points in that final week. It was 5th overall in the Atlanta United League, 39th overall across everybody, over 29,000 different teams in MLS Fantasy. Jason Wright Agency, the commish, 111 points. Las Cucarachas and Port City FC were on 110 points. So the Open League, the spring results, your champion, Joseph Martinez, uses the Oxford comma. 1,634 points. 7th overall in the Atlanta United League. 122nd overall in MLS Fantasy. Number 2, soccer-specific fantasy team. Missed it by 16 points. 16-18 is what soccer-specific fantasy team finished at. 9th in the Atlanta United overall league. 178th overall across MLS Fantasy. 3rd, Don't Var Me Bro, 16-15. So missed it by 19 points. And they were 11th in the Atlanta United Fantasy League. Really cool, very close top 3. And special congrats to the Darren Eels Dream Team. They were 10th overall in the Atlanta United League, just ahead of Don't Var Me Bro, but they weren't in the Open League. They were only in the Pro Rel League. They would have finished 3rd in the Open League. Pro Rel League, soccer-specific fantasy team, wins it 12-0-3, plus 180 on point differential in the head-to-head action. They finished ahead of Cam Do Attitude. Same record, but they were 138 on the point differential. Goldmine was 3rd, 10-1-4. So, all that said, Joseph Martinez uses the Oxford comma and Cam Do Attitude are winning limited edition Atlanta United scarves from Jason Wright and Country Financial. And here's how the leagues are going to work for the rest of this season. You can still join the Open League, and you have a chance to compete for the fall season because all points reset. So if you've been listening to all this and you're like, well, I can take Don't Var Me Bro. Come on, I can take that guy or girl.
Here's
you
your
can
chance.
sign up, and you can get in from the ground floor because the fall season is a new season. It's like the Apertura and the Clausura. The Pro Rel League, it is absolutely like an Apertura Clausura type of situation because it will reset. It's a fall league. It's a separate league. But there's no pro rel in the middle of the season because then it gets all kinds of complicated and weird. If you had pro rel between every Apertura Clausura in leagues that do that, it'd be absolute ridiculous chaos. So we're not inviting chaos into the Jason.
So we're not doing the FC Juarez purchase of a team to stay up,
no,
to get up into Liga MX.
You can't go buy Don't Var Me Bro to try to stay up and do that. No, we're not going to allow that type of nonsense. So both leagues reset. Fall League starts this weekend. Open League reset. You can join it now. Go to Jason Wright AGEN on Twitter. Go to Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. Get your instructions. Join the league. Beat John because that's what everybody's trying to do, right?
Duh.
And do that. Pro Rel League. If you're in it, you're still in it. You stay in it, and you have a chance to try to win the second half of the season. And maybe we set up some kind of pro rel league thing between soccer-specific fantasy team and whoever wins the fall league for the playoffs for the grand champion or whatever. I don't know.
Get your campeón de campeones.
Something like that. Yeah, we'll see how that could work. But thank you to Jason Wright and the Jason Wright Agency for sponsoring the show and the fantasy league and keeping us up to date on all this stuff. It's been a lot of fun. I think the people involved in it have had a blast with all the trash talking and silliness and chaos. There will be more in the Fall League. And the Fall League, look, it starts this weekend. You've got 6 games around the league. We're not going to set John's lineup for him this week because it's Tuesday, and a lot of things will change between now and Saturday when the games kick off. But you've got action to get ready for in terms of your MLS fantasy. And just real quick, your games this weekend. Dun, 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 dun. And there's a bunch of stuff on the MLS website. Cincinnati and LA Galaxy. June 22nd, 7:30. FC Dallas hosting Toronto. Chicago hosting Real Salt Lake. Vancouver hosting Colorado. Portland hosting Houston. That's all Saturday. And then Sunday, Columbus hosting Sporting Kansas City. So get your teams together right now to join the Fall League. If you haven't been part of it, you can. If you've been part of it, you will be part of it again. But if you want to get in now is the time to try to win some prizes and have some fun on the fall side of things.
Guess which team I'm trying to load up on going into this week?
LA Galaxy?
Ding.
On the road in Cincinnati?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bingham, JDS, and Zlatan as of this moment.
I'm just going to laugh and not say anything. And maybe John will figure out why I'm laughing at some point. But I'm laughing. I am laughing at that. I am laughing hysterically at that. Maybe you can think about things and figure that one out because it's not a good idea. Anyway, John will have to work on his lineup, and now he's massively confused, and I can hear the wheels turning, but we'll see if he figures it out. All right. U.S. men's
Other
national
than
team
Nippert
tonight.
being turf.
U.S. men's national team tonight. First off, whoever posted the picture of the team looking at a whiteboard outside and some players with strange looks on their faces, that's a bad thing to post right now.
That was not good.
With all of this stuff going on, that's a bad thing to post right now. Players could have been having weird looks on their faces because of a helicopter overhead or something. Who knows? But that had a lot of things being said about that picture. Let's go to Tom Bogert's piece over at MLSsoccer.com. The 4 biggest question marks as the United States opens Gold Cup campaign against Guyana tonight. It's 10 o'clock. It's late. It's from Minnesota. So after Atlanta United and Columbus play, or maybe right after if everything's on time, and they go to extra time or penalties. If there's a delay, we might be watching 2 games.
Yeah, really.
What is the Gold Cup first choice 11? I have zero idea. And injuries are part of this, and you have to be fair to Greg Berhalter in that. You're missing Tyler Adams, you're missing John Brooks, you're missing DeAndre Yedlin. Those things matter. What is the first choice 11 for the Gold Cup? I don't know if that's decided yet, honestly. I don't know if you're going to get there until the end of the group stage. The question that Bogert has at the end of that paragraph is, or end of that section, if fit, Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie expected to start in central midfield. Josie Altidore up top. Zach Steffen in goal. Nick Lima at right back. Matt Miazga at center back. If they're all good to go, what's the rest of the 11? That's two of your defenders in the 4-3-3 hybrid-ish type of thing you're doing here. Lima on the right side, Miazga in the middle. I think it's either Zimmerman or Long with Miazga. Zimmerman's had the better season so far. Long has had the better seasons. But Long has also been dealing with a hamstring injury, and Long looked really bad against Venezuela. I'd go Zimmerman with Miazga tonight. Left side, I would go away from the right back / central midfield hybrid, but I don't think you're going to. If it was me, I would play Daniel Lovitz and play more of a traditional back four. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Tim Ream on the left tucking in, and I think you're going to be asking Lima to tuck into the midfield. If you're going to play Pulisic and McKennie in central midfield, that means you've got 1-6, and you're going to be asking somebody to tuck in and help. That 1-6 is going to be either Bradley or Trapp. I think it should be Bradley. I thought Trapp was really poor against Venezuela, shockingly bad. I would go with Bradley in his experience. So Lima tucking in to help him. Your midfield is Bradley behind Pulisic and McKennie. Your wings. I don't know, because you're not getting anything out of the wings right now. So is it Areola and Boyd? Do you mix it up? Jonathan Lewis? Jordan Morris? I would be tempted to go with Morris on one side because he gives you something different in that position. I really love the hard work Paul Areola gives you. It's just very rare that you get a product in the final third out of Paul Areola, and you're going to need that. Jonathan Lewis is a player that we've all been wanting to see more of. Is he ready for it? This feels like a tournament where you could find out. Maybe not tonight. If I'm going first choice tonight and I want to see my best lineup against Guyana in the first game, I would go Morris and Areola on the wings with Altidore up top. That's kind of where I'm feeling it right now. I would go with more of a traditional 4-3-3, though. If it was me, I'd play Lovitz on the left. I'd play Bradley with someone, and you don't have Adams, so who that someone would maybe be the same trio, with McKennie being a little bit more of an 8 as opposed to being 2 10s with Pulisic. That's just a little more of a mentality change. I'll be curious to see what that first choice 11 is. And I don't know if tonight's 11 is necessarily the first choice 11 for the Gold Cup. The attack has been in the last couple of games. No goals against Jamaica, no goals against Venezuela. When you take that and you combine it with Mexico throttling Cuba, Canada throttling Martinique, Costa Rica throttling Nicaragua, there's going to be questions if the U.S. doesn't put up 4 tonight.
I was going to say, what is the result that needs to be on the board
I don't
grip
care.
factor is not at DEFCON 5?
That's the thing. I don't care. And it's the same thing about the women against Thailand. I could care less what a number is. There's not a magic number. It's about the performance. But, not for me, but in general, if they don't put up 4, like Canada and Costa Rica did, people are going to say something. They will. You know that. So, I mean, that feels like your baseline if you're looking at it that way. I don't care. If they score 2, but they create a slew of chances and look good, I'll take it. I'm fine with that. I want to see them creating chances first. Because right now, you haven't been doing that in the last 2 matches. Not enough. So that's number 1 priority, is just start creating chances. You finish some, cool. You got to win the match. You got to play better than you did in the last 2 games. That's the key for me. I'd rather see that than play bad soccer and look disorganized, but win 6-1 because you got 3 goals late in the match that didn't mean anything. I'm more about the overall performance. Really good points from Bogert about the approach from the opponents tonight in Guyana. They're probably going to sit and defend deep. That's what the lesser teams are going to do to the big boys in this tournament. So how does the U.S. deal with that? One part is the wingers, and you've got to get something from them. The other is you've got to have Bradley or Trapp, whoever it is, pick the right passes to jumpstart this attack. You've got to mix it up. It can't just be played into Pulisic and McKinney in crowded space. It can't just be look for the ball over the top to Altidore. There's got to be variety in it to throw that type of defense off. And for me, and Bogert talks about, Miazga and the other center back looking to make those plays. I want it to go through Bradley or Trapp. I want it to go through that midfielder first priority. That's how I want to start trying to build this attack, is through them. As the game goes on, yes, your center backs need to get involved in that, and Tim Ream's going to be part of that as well. They're going to have to get involved in skipping the midfield a little bit and playing to Altidore or playing into the channels to the wingers running in. But early in the match, for me, it's play through Bradley, play through Trapp, let them set the pace, and they've got to mix up their delivery and how they get this attack going. Because right now, that's my biggest question with this team. Defensively there's questions, but you played two teams and didn't get a goal in matches that you should have scored in. That's a problem. And that needs to change in this tournament, because you're facing teams that you should be scoring goals against. In this group stage, you should be scoring goals. How are they going to come? I don't know yet.
So you're saying that swapping out Antuna for Jonathan Dos Santos would be a bad idea?
What?
I was diagnosing your laughter.
So you're still trying to figure this out?
Yeah.
What is your solution now, so everybody can hear?
Well, since you said that Antuna for Jonathan Dos Santos is a bad idea, it's Gaetan.
No, I didn't say that. You didn't say that before. You said your three players from the LA Galaxy that you were going to play, that you were all excited about with your fantasy team this weekend, were Bingham, Zlatan, and Jonathan Dos Santos. That's who you said, and that's why I started laughing.
Correct.
So now what are you going to do? Did you figure out why I was laughing?
Well, I said that's why I was asking somewhat rhetorically if swapping out Antuna for Jonathan Dos Santos would be a bad idea.
So now you want to put Antuna in instead of Dos Santos.
Well, I did, but I went with Gaetan and Katai.
Okay. So you swapped two. You're confusing. Do you understand that? You said three Galaxy guys, and now you're taking two out. I don't know what's going on.
No. I'm just my middle was Katai and Jonathan Dos Santos and two others.
Oh, I don't know what your team was before. I was just going by you were excited about three players, and one of them's playing in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, and that's when I said so. Antuna swapping out for that Gold Cup player would be a bad idea.
Yes, that would be a dumber idea. Yes.
And so I'm still waiting for Zlatan to sit here and say I'm not going to play on turf either now that he's captained.
If somebody can subscribe me to the ESPN in John's head, I would appreciate it, because the Antuna part, I think that was only in his head until he said it like I should have known it was coming. Somebody get me that subscription, please.
At the end of every show, we need to have a Nelson annotated.
No, it's not even Nelson annotated. That's when you have crazy references that people don't understand and have to go Google. This one, I had no idea what you were talking about because you didn't say it. So, okay, have you checked the Gold Cup rosters now for your MLS fantasy team?
No, I just checked the news.
Well, you might need to go ahead and just check it all, because just playing Jonathan Dos Santos would be a bad idea. That's all I know. That was very funny when you said that.
As well it should have been.
Yes. So I'm glad you figured that out, even though the solution, I didn't know what you were talking about because I had no clue. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and I'm going to try to find that subscription, and we'll be right back after this.
Looking for future leaders we can trust and believe in? Look no further than the high school student athletes right here in Georgia. High school sports teach young people how to be effective leaders. It begins by making their grades and being on time for practice. It includes learning to listen, following directions, accepting responsibility, being a good role model. And it's about respect for officials, opponents, the rules, and each other. The result? It transcends sports. It gives us hope for the future. High school sports. There's so much more than just a game. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
Today's show is presented by ATLUTD Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, June 18th. I think maybe I've figured things out in John's head, and I'm completely frightened by that prospect.
I was going to say,
probably
dude, you want to own up to that?
No. I think I've at least figured out, like, today and the last hour and 22 minutes in your head. So I think we're caught up in that regard, maybe. Let's see if people have caught up on Twitter. What are they saying?
Hudson at the Mile High 17. Who brings another championship to the A first, Atlanta United or the Braves? Both look really good with bright futures. Also, is someone trying to troll Atlanta United with all this Reign/Columbus/Charleston shenanigans? This is too ironic. Hashtag Tuesday Thought.
The Reign stuff is insanity because preseason was like that too. It was just like Reign followed the team everywhere they went. So the Reign is bizarre. Mother Nature is definitely trolling Atlanta United. I trust Atlanta United to win a championship this year more than I trust the Braves because the lack of a closer is frightening. And it seems like it's been an issue for a while and hasn't been addressed ever. So as good as the Braves have been, I think when you get into those postseason games, I have more concerns about them than I do about Atlanta United. Pitching
for me when it comes to the Braves.
Starters are pretty good. It's just you don't have a closer, and I think the things you've tried. I mean, I can't say that I am Joe Patrick and following the Braves.
They didn't sign Craig Kimbrell.
No, they didn't sign Craig Kimbrell. I think he got a ridiculous amount of money. It was maybe too much in general, but then that gets back to the question of are the Braves in it to win it and investing into a team that could win it with such an exciting young core, or are they trying to do it somewhat on the cheap?
Line on a balance sheet until proven otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, but that's also unfair when you talk about the young development of players, and that was a very strategic approach. It served the Braves well going into the 90s, and it served them well with the group that they've developed. I mean, they have incredible young talent at a number of positions, but now is the time when you're looking for that final piece, and you're trying to put together the final product, and they're going to have to figure that out before you get into the postseason. I don't trust the bullpen with what they have right now. So I would go Atlanta United is more likely than the Braves to win a championship this year.
Daniel Price, with Kratz out indefinitely and him missing most of the season, as harsh as it may be, do we trade him and pick someone else during this trade window? Don't get me wrong. I love Kratz, but I'm scared for his future here right now.
Yeah, but this is the thing that always comes up in these scenarios. Who would trade for him right now? Nobody. So, no, there's no trade value. So I don't think you can trade him. I do wonder what the scenario is here because, it sounds like there's been another setback and he's going to be out for a while. You need some extra depth in the middle of the park. You've needed Kevin Kratz here for a while now. You don't have him. You're not going to have him for a while. Do you go out into the market to pick up another central midfielder? And what kind of central midfielder are you looking to get? Are you just trying to get somebody to fill a depth role? Okay, that might be an easier solution. Are you trying to get somebody that could turn into a more significant player, if not this year, next year? Different conversation, a more significant outlay to get that player. Those are the things that are going to go into the summer transfer window for Atlanta United. And Kevin Kratz's absence, it really hurts. I don't know, and I don't know if the team knows at this point, the severity of the setback and if it's going to take him out for the rest of the year, if that would allow you to put him on a season-ending injury list and create the roster spot, because that's going to be an issue going into the summer window, is you don't have a senior roster spot. Right now, you have a reserve roster spot that you could sign a young player to a minimum contract from outside your organization, a 24 years or younger player, or a homegrown player. And the only homegrown player that would feel like they're close to that type of situation would be Will Vent. And Will Vent going from Atlanta United 2 matches straight into the rotation with the first team, I think they need a little bit more than that. I really like Will Vent, and I really like his game. Don't know if he's ready to go pro right now, and I don't know if he's ready to go play minutes. And I think you're going to need somebody in that central midfield over this second half of the season that can play minutes in these matches. I don't know if he's quite there yet. He looked really good for the U19s last night in a 2-2 draw against Real Salt Lake. It was on the U.S. Soccer Development Academy YouTube page. I think it was on their Twitter as well. Back and forth game. Jackson Conway with 2 penalties for Atlanta. They had a 2-1 lead. They gave up a goal in stoppage time on a set piece and ended up tying 2-2. It was a really good back and forth game. Vent had a couple of the passes that make your mouth water when you've seen him play. I think he has a lot of Will Trapp in him, but I think he's a much more athletic Will Trapp. And I know people are going to say, oh, don't compare him to Will Trapp. Will Trapp's been a captain in this league for 5 years, and he's been part of the national team. And yes, he had a bad game against Venezuela. But if you're an up-and-coming young player, that's a comparison that you'd be happy with. And I think Will Vent can be a better version of that because I think he's more athletic. But is he ready to be that now? It's a lot to ask, but that's the roster spot you have. Right now, that would be your best option unless you can open up a senior roster spot and go get a veteran player to give you that depth. But I think that depth, where we're talking about Kratz in the middle of the field, it's going to be needed in the second half of the season. Atlanta's going to have to figure that out with this new setback with Kevin Kratz's calf injury. Let's take a break. We'll talk to Doug Robertson on the other side of the break. We'll get some predictions for Atlanta and Columbus tonight in maybe more of a wet field at Mopfre Stadium because this is just how things go in 2019. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Ray Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Matchday Tuesday. Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup round of 16. Atlanta United heading to Columbus, Ohio. Doug Robertson of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is also heading to Columbus, Ohio early this afternoon. Live from the airport, it's Doug.
Live from the airport.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
All right.
I'm fine. I've made this walk so many times that I like seeing all the statues from Africa. I'm about to head into the Georgia history section as I walk to Terminal B here.
So you're one of the people like me who likes to walk between the terminals as opposed to the plane train.
Yeah, well, it's the only exercise I get, so I figure I should take advantage of it.
There you go.
I like to see the little things, and the plane train can be a little crazy sometimes. Everybody trying to jam into the same door instead of the other five.
Plane train, yeah.
You know, I like to walk. I like the rainforest area. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, now that we've had our Atlanta airport coverage, let's get into Atlanta and Columbus Crew tonight. Neither team will be at completely full strength. That's to be expected this time of year. It sounds like Atlanta will be closer to full strength than Columbus with all of their absences. What are you expecting in that regard as to how this game feels?
I think it's going to be a rough game, particularly if it rains like it's supposed to. Yeah. I think it's going to be a game. I don't think it's going to be a good TV, simply because it's two teams featuring players that don't play together too often, which makes for some play, and then the weather is going to make it even worse. And I'm expecting goals.
So, Doug, we were talking in the previous segment about players who won't be around, in addition to Atlanta United trotting out the lineup tonight. And we were talking about Kevin Kratz and him being a longer-term injury than initially anticipated. When it comes to replacing Kratz long-term, what are you looking at? Is this the shopping that happens now in the window when it pops up, or are you looking at how are you looking at the resolution of the Pratt situation?
I'm not trying to be mean, but I haven't really given Kevin a whole lot of thought, simply because he hasn't played a whole lot in the previous two seasons. He's had those two free kick goals in the same game. And other than that, he's not really someone that I've ever penciled into being a starter if someone were to go down, or one of the first off the bench guys. I know he was consistently better than Tata, but so I hate that this injury has turned into something that it looks like I'm not sure if he's ever going to play for Atlanta United again. I can't imagine that Atlanta United would want to keep him on their books because he makes more than $200,000 and he's not a starter. So as far as shopping, I mean, Frank says he wants someone who could come in and play right away, but Kevin has barely played. So I'm not sure if that's the spot they're looking at.
Yeah, we were talking about it from a depth perspective, and it feels like that's a spot that the club's been a little light this season in, just in a central midfield role, whether it's more of a defensive midfield spot or more of an 8. You've had Lorenowitz, you've had Nagbe, you've had Remedi in those spots, and that's really it. I think the idea, hopefully, was going to be that Kratz would help support some of that. But if DeBoer's talking about a player that would come in and be able to play straight away, that sounds a little more significant than that type of signing, or, as we've talked about, the reserve roster spot that cleared up when Asayadu was waived. That's a homegrown signing. That's nothing more than that. So that wouldn't seem to match up with what Frank DeBoer said either.
No, and all that was said before the international rosters were announced also.
Right.
And Atlanta United went from having a whole bunch of players that could be gone to only having one player gone. So they may have adjusted their thinking. And also, Darren, said that Ezekiel Barco is not going to be sold this season. So that's not going to open a slot either. So it's going to be interesting to see if they add anyone. And if so, who?
So when it comes to a Barco tonight, I don't know who has traveled, and I will have that as full disclosure, but how much Barco would you see tonight if it was you?
If it were me, I would only consider bringing him off the bench. I think he needs a break. He went right from Atlanta United to Argentina, to the Argentinian team in Poland, and has come back. He played a lot of minutes in Poland. I would consider giving him a break. Some people are saying, well, he needs some time before they go to Toronto. I don't really think I agree with that. I think he's in game condition. I think he's fine. So I would only consider bringing him off the bench for 10 to 15 minutes just to get his legs under him.
Yeah, well, I think if you go to him at that point in the match, it's probably because you need a goal, and that's the other element of having Barco available. If he is in the 18 tonight, is you can start a lineup similar to what we saw on Thursday night. That was a bit of a mix. Romario Williams would be the biggest question mark with what appeared to be a groin injury late in that. On a wet field and quick turnaround, that might be a tough ask. Brandon Vasquez would be in consideration to start up top with his performance off the bench. Andrew Carlton is another one who I think you'd probably rather give him the start here than Barco, and then have Barco available if you're in a situation where you need to go rescue the match.
Yeah, I would like to give Carlton some more minutes. I thought he didn't really do a whole lot in the first 20, but then he kind of shook away a guy with a nice little Nagbe-like move and got a shot off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think his confidence kind of grew from there, and he played really well. So I would like to see him get another run out tonight. Romario Williams did train yesterday, but I think Brandon Vasquez deserves a shot at a start after his 2 goals, and give Romario Williams the turn coming off the bench. I'm really interested to see who Frank is going to roll out at center back, because they don't have Giazzi Zardes to worry about, the big beefy center forward. So he could bring out Parkhurst and Pogba, let Parkhurst get a turn at center back, and give Pogba another start, and give Robinson and Leandro just some more time to rest, because they've played a lot of minutes since the beginning of the season.
And you mentioned Andrew Carlton and Brandon Vasquez a little bit, but let me get your thoughts on the guys that got a bit of a run in that match against Charleston, Justin Miram, Brandon Vasquez, from the guys that we haven't really gotten that big sample size on MLS win or loss opportunity. Some of the guys that we finally got to see get some run in this Open Cup match against Charleston, what was some of your instant feedback from those?
I thought Miram played well. I thought he and Vasquez had a nice little connection going. So I think you're going to see Miram start again tonight. It's his return to Columbus, a franchise that he said he owes basically his career to. So I think you'll see Miram in place of Pereira, who really was anonymous in that Charleston game. Carlton in the middle. I think Pitty will get another run out. I think they need to keep him going, particularly how he played in the second half against Charleston. See if he can do that for a whole game, just to try to, find a spark for him and get some more glimpses into why he was a South American Player of the Year, with Vasquez starting up top. Parkhurst came on for the final few minutes. We know what he's going to bring. But I think you'll see what I would do is Vasquez up top with Pitty, Andrew, and Justin in across the midfield and Lorenowitz and Nagby in the midfield. They're the two midfielders.
Could work with that. I think Rometty could maybe get the start instead of one of the others if needed. But those three, they're all interchangeable at this point.
Yeah, I think I would consider giving Nagby a break.
Yeah.
And so you could see Rometty and Lorenowitz starting, but based on what Frank keeps doing, I think it's more likely to be Nagby starting.
Yeah, easily could be. When you look at the crew from their last Open Cup match against Pittsburgh, it was Patrick Mullins who got the start up top. Strong attacking midfield behind him with David Acom, who was the goal scorer, Pedro Santos as the replacement for Federico Higuain, and it appears that's the way that Caleb Porter is going to go with this. And then Robinho, who started a lot this season on the other flank, and Artur and David Guzman behind them. Without Will Trapp, it's Artur and Guzman, more different types of midfielders, so Columbus has to play it a little bit differently. What worries you about this situation when you look at Columbus and how they could hurt Atlanta tonight?
Acom's speed worries me. But Franco starts. He's fast enough to keep up with Acom. Parkhurst is savvy enough to break up the play. I think at Monday night will be focused on just not letting Columbus trying to hit three balls that Acom can run onto. He's really the only guy that kind of would give me some pause if I were Atlanta United, but the weather could easily just negate his speed and his ability to influence the game tonight.
Now, before we get into predictions, the men's are going at it tonight against Guyana. I don't know how much you've peeked into that, but when you're looking at that match tonight with the men's national team, because there are some absences from MLS players that are part of the national team, what are you looking at tonight with the U.S. and Guyana?
Really nothing is going to surprise me about the U.S. I wouldn't be stunned if they don't even advance out of their group the way they've looked the previous two games. They should do to Guyana what Mexico just did to Haiti or Cuba or whoever it was they played. And if they can't, and if they don't, then I just don't see how in the world they're going to make it to the championship game of this tournament. But I don't understand the personnel choices. I like Greg Berhalter as a manager. I was hoping that he would bring a fresh, critical eye to the roster, but instead we're just seeing a bunch of the same old, which is the same as the previous managers. So at this point, really, I don't have a lot of interest, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're not alone, and that's a big problem for U.S. soccer that they're going to have to figure out one way or another. 10 o'clock kickoff tonight's not going to help either, so we'll see what the chatter is after Atlanta and Columbus finishes. Who knows? They might not be finished by that point if we have delays, and I don't want to wish that upon you, Doug. I am not hoping for that.
Yeah, no.
Fingers crossed that you're out of there at 9:30 after a very comfortable 2-hour match that doesn't go into extra time.
Oh, it's all good. I'm paid either way.
This is true, but I don't want you to have to deal with the chaos you did in Charleston. I want it to be an easier night.
Well, actually, that was a lot more interesting than a game story would have been. So
it's true. It did,
and I still think there are some threads there that haven't been tied together. I'm just not quite sure what they are just yet.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like there might be some things that were going on behind the scenes. They've been dropped and maybe not coming to light, but who knows? That was a wild sequence of events last week. Let's see if we get a wild sequence of events tonight. Round of 16, Atlanta, Columbus. prediction time, and thanks to Steve Apolinski and Apolinski and Associates for sponsoring our predictions and the Bailey Daily poll that you can vote in over at JBailey86. That's how the listeners can chime in. But John, what are you thinking for tonight's match?
Other than sloppiness, I'm looking at 2-1 because of that. I figure Columbus gets one somewhere if it's a set piece or off a corner or something like that. So I'll go 2-1, regular time, Miram and PT for Atlanta United.
Okay. Doug?
I think Atlanta United is going to make history and advance past the 5th round for the first time in the Open Cup with a 2-0 win.
Ooh, okay. Comfortable win, too. I like it. I'm not quite as optimistic as Doug, but I do think it's going to be a 1-0 win. I think Columbus is really struggling. I think it'll be a second-half goal, and I think it's going to be the Open Cup hero for Atlanta United, Brandon Vasquez. He has more goals than anybody else in the Open Cup for this team. He's, I think, made his Atlanta United career in Open Cup matches, and he does it again tonight with another match winner. 1-0 goal in the final 15 minutes, and Atlanta United advances into the quarterfinals.
All right.
We will see. Doug, what will we be reading from you around tonight's match?
Well, first I want to say I was asked to be a panelist at the Associated Press Sports Editors Convention yesterday that was held here in Atlanta, just about how to try to get more page views for your soccer coverage, because there's a lot of good work being done by a lot of good soccer reporters at a lot of metropolitan newspapers, and the papers are struggling to get the page views. They can see that there are people going to the games, but they can't seem to get the page views that they're looking for. And I think some of the issues are self-inflicted, and some of it is inflated expectations. But the thing I need to stress to people out there is, if you like your coverage of Major League Soccer, from whether it's me, whether it's from Jonathan Tannenwald, whether it's from Stephen Goff, Kevin Baxter, any of the guys at local newspapers, you got to click on it and you got to share it. If you're just reading the headlines, that does nobody any good. And we are all businesses. And if we're not getting page views, eventually plugs are going to get pulled on coverage. It's as simple as that. So you've got to read, and it would be great if you could share. Tonight, I'll be providing the coverage that I try to provide from every game. You'll have a game story as soon as the final whistle is blown. I'll go back into that game story and add quotes and context. I'll do player ratings. I'll do a Southern Fried Soccer podcast. And depending upon what happens in the game, you'll have at least one sidebar and hopefully a couple.
And that's something you mentioned, that investment. And this is another time that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution is doing something that, look, I haven't double-checked it, but I don't think there's another paper that is sending a reporter to an Open Cup match. I don't think that's the case anywhere in the country right now, unless it's one that's in the same town or whatever. And Doug was in Charleston, and Doug is in Columbus, and he's about to fly out here in just a little bit. That's an amazing investment in both in Doug, but also in covering soccer the way it should be covered by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And yeah, I'm 100% with Doug. When you find writers that you enjoy, you have to support their work. And I know it's really easy for people to go and cut and paste and just read headlines and not fully support this stuff, but it doesn't continue if it's not supported. You have to do that, and you have to spread the word about it if you find something that you enjoy. So I'm right there with you, Doug. I think what you do at the AJC is right there with, you know, the people that you mentioned that are the leading lights in covering soccer in this country, and it's critical for the game. The game does not have the success that it is currently having without the work that you do and without the work that others do in their local market. So keep kicking ass, basically, and people who are out there listening, keep supporting it so it continues.
Keep clicking ass.
whether people like it or not, newspapers drive all local media coverage.
They do.
TVs take their cues from newspapers. Websites take their cues from newspapers. So if these newspapers make decisions to no longer cover soccer, that rising tide that's supposed to lift all boats will drop, and coverage will diminish. It's as simple as that. So I don't mean to sound dire, but it wasn't a good vibe yesterday at the Sports Editors Convention.
Yeah, and that is a shame because the game is growing, and I think we all know it's growing, but there are ways that it still has a lot of room to grow, and I think this is one. So keep doing what you do, man, and we'll keep spreading the word and hopefully bringing some subscribers over for you.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
We'll
Thanks,
talk to
Doug.
you
Be
later.
safe.
Thanks, Doug. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and wrap up with some final Thursday or Tuesday or Thursday or whatever thoughts you want to throw at us.
thinking.
Go ahead. Wednesday Wall Pass. Go ahead and do those too. Have fun. We'll be right back.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Final segment. Soccer Down here, June 18th. It's Tuesday Thoughts. We'll take your Tuesday thoughts. We'll take your thoughts on Atlanta United tonight, on the U.S. men's national team tonight, Women's World Cup, Copa America, other Gold Cup, whatever you want to get into. We're here for it. One thing that we haven't dug deeper into that we mentioned earlier in the show, Michel Platini, the former French legendary player who then became the head of UEFA and was a big part of the FIFA Executive Committee and a big part of FIFA's decision to award the 2022 World Cup to Qatar. How are we pronouncing this now? Because I've heard it in 5 different ways, and I don't know if there is a defined one.
And, you know, I've always, and the thing for me is it's always been Qatar and Qatari, but
yes.
Now I'm hearing Qatar, and I'm like, okay, so are you Qatari?
Yeah,
you
so
know,
if anybody can explain that one to us, like the Qatar one was a newer one for me. I'd always heard Qatar. We'll get there. We've got some time. We've got about 3 years before we get to that World Cup. However, it appears that World Cup should not have happened.
Shocking.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that it beat out the United States, Australia, South Korea, and Japan to win that World Cup with, being a tiny country and needing to build all these stadiums, and we can get into all of the way they built the stadiums. And that's a whole nother topic.
Such temperate conditions for soccer.
And, you're going to have it in the wintertime, and it's going to change everybody's schedules. All those things have happened. Well, Michel Platini is now being questioned by French anti-corruption investigators over the decision for this World Cup to go to Qatar. In a statement, Platini's lawyers reiterated that he had not been arrested and has, quote, expressed himself serenely and precisely, answering all the questions, including those on the conditions for the awarding of Euro 2016, and has provided useful explanations. They added, quote, he has nothing to do with this event, which doesn't concern him at all. He is absolutely confident about what's next. Okay. He was banned for 8 years by FIFA. That was reduced to 4 on appeal, and it will expire in October of 2019.
Thanks,
Qatar's
Cass.
bid team had been previously accused of corruption, but was cleared following a 2-year FIFA inquiry, which is laughable. FIFA inquiring into these things about FIFA doing these
so
things.
Did you? No. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. All right.
Yeah, we're good.
There's all kinds of stuff about this, and Dan Rohn, the BBC sports editor, gives a little more context over in their piece. 2 years of work by French investigators from the country's Serious Financial Crime Unit, who, just like their counterparts in the United States and Switzerland, have been looking into allegations of corruption connected to FIFA's shock decision to award Qatar the World Cup in 2022. Blatter has been interviewed as part of this case. Not really a shock that Platini is now involved in that as well. It is understood that these questions will focus on a lunch Platini attended in Paris just days before the hugely controversial vote in 2010, with the then French president Nicolas Sarkozy at his official residence and the Qatari head of state. There's just ideas that there was all kinds of trade deals between France and Qatar that played into this and used as leverage to get the support from the French president at the time. Platini has always denied that meeting and those deals were why he changed his mind to vote for Qatar instead of the United States. So, stay tuned.
Sure.
This is going to continue, and more will come out of it. I think there's a lot more to come out of this, it sounds like. If you've got another crime agency that is investigating in this, it's not going to go away, I don't think. And if anybody cracks and admits to these wrongdoing, what does that mean for the 2022 World Cup and what happens with it? Does anything change? I don't know. It's going to be an absolute mess in this regard for a while. So stay tuned. That news has been spreading around the soccer world pretty big this morning. So that's your Cliff's Notes version of Michel Platini and being questioned over this situation with Qatar and the World Cup in 2022.
Serenely answering the questions.
Well, I mean, it's good that he was serenely answering the questions. That's good. That's a really good word to use in that situation. Serenely.
Yeah, it's like you get to Briscoe and Logan, or the Andre Braugher character from Homicide. They put you in the interrogation room. You're answering questions serenely.
It's better than answering them
angrily.
Yeah, that's good. Jillian Gaffigan on Twitter chimes in about the U.S. men's national team tonight. The USMNT will put in a strong performance, but it won't erase doubts. This opener isn't a match that will teach us anything. I think it could teach us some bad things. I don't think it'll necessarily teach us any good things. It's kind of like the U.S. and Thailand in the Women's World Cup. If it goes badly, well, then everybody's going to freak out. If the U.S. wins and wins in a convincing fashion, well, they should. So it's one you just kind of have to take care of business. And that's why I'm looking more at the quality of the performance as opposed to the scoreline. That's what's more important to me in this one. And it has to be a much better performance than we've seen as of late.
Katie Weaver. So if the hashtag root for chaos scenario happens with the U.S. women's national team in a shootout, which of our ladies stands in goal? Anyone a dual high school basketball star? Hashtag Tuesday Thoughts.
I don't know of any of the field players that have that experience off the top of my head. I'll have to dig into that. And the root for chaos theory in this would be that there is a goalkeeper sent off during a shootout because of coming off the line. Either they had a yellow card in regulation, they get a second yellow for coming off their line in a shootout, or they do it twice in a shootout. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's
going to happen.
I'm just convinced it's going to happen in the summer. So, well, it's definitely going to happen sometime. I mean, I think we can all rule that out. Yes, it's going to happen, but I think it happens in this tournament because
no doubt.
I'm with you. It's the way the laws have been set up. If it happens to the U.S., who goes in goal? What's funny is, and it wasn't this type of scenario, but we have seen a field player in a Women's World Cup match go into goal for the United States in the run of play before. It was Mia Hamm who went in for Brianna Scurry in 1995 when she got sent off late in a match, and Mia Hamm had to go in to finish the match out. In this scenario, I kind of feel like Julie Ertz would grab the jersey and the gloves and go in and goal. I kind of just, that's my gut feeling, is that she would do it. I don't know why. I have nothing to base that on. I don't know if she played.
Well, I think that she would. There'd be no discussion. I think that she would just go grab it and it's like, look, I'm doing this.
Yeah. I think she would take that on because she just feels like that kind of player. So, and it's kind of like when you make a decision about the kickers and you don't have like this, nailed down list of kickers, and it's, do you want to take one? Are you ready to take one? How do you feel about this? And you're looking for players who step up and say, yes, I want to take one. You're kind of looking for the same thing in this situation because there's no expectations of anyone being in a situation to actually do a great job as a normal goalkeeper would. You're just looking for somebody who's confident. And Julie Ertz feels like a player who would confidently take that on for the team. So that would be my pick.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I like that idea. Tafka has
I don't like the idea at all. I hate the idea because it scares me to death.
Okay, so
I don't want to see that at all.
I embrace the premise if it were to happen. How about that?
Yeah, I'll take it if it happens, but I hate the idea. I hate the idea with a passion that that's how a World Cup is going to come down for somebody.
Knowing full well that it's probably going to do it in this tournament. Tafka with a screen cap of a Facebook page. What every single MLS market should be trying to achieve. The sport is infectious if you promote it right. And it's from the Facebook page of Art Lieb to Atlanta United FC fans. And it was posted yesterday. Art says, 2 years ago, I'd never watched an entire football match in my life. I only really paid attention to the sport during the World Cup, but even then I just watched a bit when the U.S. played. Then I went to the inaugural Atlanta United match and Bobby Dodden was truly introduced to the sport. I'm now watching a Gold Cup match between Jamaica and Honduras. I still follow other sports, but they have all taken a back seat to football. Hashtag Yamil scored.
A lot of people. I mean, that's one story of a bunch that I've heard over the years, and that's what a local club that does it in this way can be. And I think it's something that American clubs haven't done enough of, where they create that community, that it's all encompassing. And Atlanta United's been really special in that regard. I don't know if other fan bases and other cities in the United States have as many of these types of stories. It's important because I think for years and years and years, the soccer community in the United States was way too insular and way too mean girls. You can't sit with us. And that's got to stop. And I think Atlanta being Atlanta just as a city, and I think the way that this club has portrayed itself and the way that the media has covered it as well, and Doug is a huge part of that, and all the podcasts and all the different shows and all the different conversations have been really important to making it just an easy thing to be part of these conversations. And then you're going to get people who follow Atlanta United and maybe don't get into the Gold Cup as much, but you're going to get people who, once they hit that jump-off point, they're going to watch Haiti and Bermuda in the Gold Cup because they're completely infected with this wonderful game. So, and I think a lot of times with soccer folks, too, there was always a thing about, well, if you like other sports, you can't like both. Yes, you can, absolutely. And I've noticed it over my time once MLS started and you had a day in and day out league to follow and really follow, and it was easy to follow. Baseball dropped off for me. It did. I grew up on baseball. I could have told you the starting lineup for every team in the National League in the late 80s and probably mimic their batting stance. Now, I maybe watch 1, 2, maybe 3 complete baseball games in a year. Maybe.
If that many for me.
It's probably in the postseason. So it's just, that was the biggest casualty for me as a sports fan. I still want to keep up with what's going on because I want to know what's going on in the city, and I want the Braves to do well. And last year, getting to the postseason was fun, and I did watch those games in the postseason more than I had a lot in previous years. But I just don't have the same day-to-day affinity for it. Still love football. Growing more in love with basketball. I really like where the NBA is going. I think it's going to be an exciting offseason. We were talking about it after the news of the trade with Anthony Davis came down. Like it just opens up so many different scenarios for the NBA going into next year. It could be a lot of fun. And the Hawks, with the draft picks they have, could be a wild week with potential draft moves. So there's a lot of storylines that are interesting to grab your attention. But I think with soccer, it's so all-encompassing with your local club team. And this summer, with the Gold Cup, with the Copa America, with the Women's World Cup, there's so many things going on that if you wanted to just completely get into all of it and not pay attention to anything else, you easily could. It's crazy. It's great. It's so much easier than it used to be. Because to watch all this stuff before, you had to have a satellite package. You had to go to the local pub to watch some of these games. Now it's just, all right, which game am I going to watch? Click.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yesterday, the doubleheader in Kingston, Jamaica, had that on the TV the entire time.
Yep.
Curacao, El Salvador, Jamaica, Honduras. They were on the TV in Office HD. Without hesitation. John Roper, any word on Bellows' recovery?
Nothing that I've seen. He's listed as out on the media notes for this one, which is no surprise. I believe when he had surgery, it was 2 to 3 months at that time, and I think we're getting into the 2-month range now. I would assume that they are going to take it very easy with his recovery. At his age and having recurring issues that forced a surgical procedure, I don't think they're going to rush him. But if you're in that 2 to 3 month window and you're getting closer to that coming up now, it's probably get back to training and get some games with the twos under your belt is what would be next for him. And from a first team perspective, you're hoping that once you get into maybe the last month of the season that you can start to incorporate him. Maybe in August, maybe earlier in August if things move fast. But I think you're probably looking to get him incorporated into September, and you'd love to have him as an option in the postseason, but it's just going to be how fast he gets back to both full fitness and rhythm, and that's the part that you just can't predict yet.
Thomas Gawin. After research, I can now confirm that complaints re-VAR can be broken into 3 categories. 10% are about the mechanics of VAR, 35% are Luddites who hate modern life, and the other 55% don't like the actual laws of the game and are only just now realizing it.
Yes, there are so many issues that come up with, I hate VAR, get off my lawn, that are more about the laws of the game than the actual referee, video assistant referee situation. And I wouldn't even say that they're just realizing they don't like the laws of the game. I think this change on the goalkeeper situation to the laws of the game is getting exposed badly, and it's something that they're going to have to figure out. The automatic yellow is the worst change to the laws of the game, period. The handball definition that makes it more complicated is right there, but not quite as bad. It's that one, at least I understand the thought process. It's the toughest call in the game. Offside now with VAR, look, it's easy. It's yes or no. If things are properly structured with your cameras and having these situations, it's a yes or no. You look at the video, it's yes or no, done. That used to be the most difficult. Now it's judging a handball. And I get that you try to provide more definition with this whole thing about the arm being outside the silhouette, but by trying to define it more clearly, I think they've made it harder for referees to actually call because it takes the common sense element out.
The physical movement of an individual just taken out of play, and that to me is part of it too.
But no, it's not taken out of play. It was never involved in the actual definition of a handball, and that's the problem. Is that it was so vague before. You're trying to define it more, which is good. The idea is good to try to define it. I don't think you actually can define it so rigidly because you create situations where the England-Scotland one and others that we've seen in this Women's World Cup where you have a player who is in a natural motion doing what any defender would be doing in that situation and has no opportunity to avoid the handball call, and they give it and it's a penalty. They're running or their arm is in a completely natural motion or whatever, and they're penalized for it. You're creating a situation where savvy teams are going to say, look, we can't find anything in this match. Play it out wide and put a cross into the defender. Don't try to beat the defender. Put the cross into the defender and try to find a handball. You're going to see that. And that sucks. That's not good for the game. It's not good for the game at all. So there's got to be common sense allowed for the referee to say, yes, this is the definition. Arm outside the silhouette is potentially a handball. But I am going to judge it based off my brain and could the defender have done anything to avoid it? Did they try to cause it? I'm going to judge that. And yes, I might need video to help me judge that. But it can't be so rigid that the referee can't judge it, because that's a problem. So I understand it because that's been the running joke is what's a handball. It is a little bit of you know it when you see it. It is. And I think that just needs to be accepted.
Justice Stevens would be proud. Joe Bost, as a relative newbie to the men's national team results tonight versus, he says Ghana, even though they're playing Guyana. Yeah. He says, yes, will be viewed against how the women's national team result against Thailand to the casual fan. If the men don't dominate, people will be done, in my humble opinion.
Oh, some people will. Yeah. No, they'll compare it to the two. I think it's a little bit harder to because the gaps are larger on the women's side between a team that's won and Thailand's in the 50s, I believe. I think Chile's actually ranked lower in the FIFA standings, in the FIFA rankings, than Thailand was. But Chile was a much more difficult opponent. It's tougher to make those comparisons straight up on the women's side because of some of the differences between what these players are dealing with. I mean, Thailand's essentially semi-pro going up against as pro of a team as you're going to find in the tournament. That's a much bigger gap than this one. I don't think you can compare it saying that the men need a 13-0 game here. I don't think that's going to happen. The men need a good performance, and they need a commanding win, or there will be questions. If you get a good performance and it's a 2-0 win, there will be questions. There will be. The questions are going to be there, I think, no matter what. I think even if it's a 7-0, if you match what Mexico did against Cuba, the questions are still going to be there because it's not a quality opponent tonight. But maybe the drum beating is a little quieter at least. Just have to see. I think they need a strong performance more than anything tonight.
39 in the rankings coming in.
Yeah, that's craziness.
Okay, Tafka, a couple of things. I read that the NISA board met a couple of weeks ago. There's still a thing, and then
The
he
NISA?
has yeah.
Yeah, you said Nice. I was
Yeah.
like, we're talking about French football now.
No. The NISA board met a couple of weeks ago. There's still a thing,
See,
and then
that's
there's
why
an emoji there.
It's NISA.
Yeah.
NISA, I don't know who came up with we're going to call it NISA. I disagree with that completely. It's NISA, if they exist. It is still a thing.
Yeah,
it is.
apparently
there's a team in
so.
Atlanta. No, there's a team in Atlanta. There's going to be a team in Atlanta, and reportedly they're going to start their season at the beginning of September, and it's a professional team. I don't know what they're called or where they're playing.
Yep.
That's all I got.
And
I don't know.
Then Tafka followed that up with the chin-rubbing cocked eyebrow emoji. And he also says, I saw the crest for the New Orleans Jesters for the first time. It is solid. Let's get them into at USL League One.
The New Orleans Jesters used to be in USL. They left USL. They're part of NPSL. They've been rumored to be part of potentially NPSL Pro or Founders Cup or whatever that's going to be called. They're a very small organization, and I don't know how ready they would be for anything with USL League One. It's complicated with the lower divisions. I saw a press release making the rounds yesterday about another new league that is creating a pathway to pro, and they're going to be provisionally pro. And they used a lot of words that felt like legal speak that didn't make a lot of sense if you know the process for pro leagues and teams. So I don't know. That would be in addition to NISA, and that would be in addition to NISA is actually sanctioned as a Division III professional league by U.S. Soccer to play starting in September with teams that are kind of there or kind of not. I don't know. Announcements are supposed to start happening. I've been waiting. The NPSL thing is not officially sanctioned as a professional league by U.S. Soccer. They can be a professional league and have professional teams outside of the U.S. Soccer professional league standards because the USASA, which used to be the United States Amateur Soccer Association, but is now the United States Adult Soccer Association. That change happened a while ago. You can have professional teams that are affiliated with it. So there are NPSL teams that have been professional. That's nothing new. The NPSL Pro or Premier or Founders Cup or whatever that's going to end up being is a group of teams that are all going to be professional and playing in a league against one another. But they've been having some issues, and Midfield Press and Sock Takes have been digging into all this. They've been having some issues when it comes down to insurance and workers' comp and all of the things that go along with being a professional league. It's not easy. And it's going to be difficult because that league would be outside of the Professional Referees Organization, Pro. They would not be booked by Pro. So they would have to get good referees outside of the Pro system, which isn't easy. So there's a lot of this going around that, I have an idea of how I want to do a professional soccer league or do a professional team. I'm just going to do it. And there's a lot of people who realize it's a lot harder than they think it's going to be. So USL and the standards that have been set by USL, and honestly that came because of the NASL teams breaking away from USL about 8 years ago and demanding higher standards, but then unable to meet the higher standards that they demanded needed to happen. And USL has now, after time, because they didn't meet these standards before, is now meeting these standards, and I think working to raise the standards. Now it's harder for others to just start a fly-by-night team or league or what have you like they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's kind of funny how things turn. It's just the lower divisions at that level are absolutely chaotic at the moment. So stay tuned to NISA and NPSL Founders Cup and Pro and what have you, and whatever this other league is that I think is going to be somewhere in the New York area. Stay tuned because, it definitely keeps people talking, but I don't know if it's going to have as much of an effect on American soccer as they hope it will.
Couple more.
Okay.
John at JJ_SoCal_Texan is saying that everybody should win easily tonight, considering Guyana's ranked 177 and has a population of less than 1 million. Then again, we lost to Trinidad and Tobago. Daniel Price, Atlanta United es familia, and this is what I thought was interesting. He said, honestly, it kind of has had an opposite effect on me. My overall interest in Atlanta sports has peaked ever since I've been inducted into the cult of Atlanta United. Granted, it has also affected my love for the entire sport of soccer, and I kind of just follow everything.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, you know? I mean, I do still watch the Falcons and Georgia football. I don't dig into the rest of the NFL or watch as much other college football as I used to, but I still watch my Falcons games and Georgia games. I am definitely more interested in the Hawks as of late from last year and going into this year. I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do with this rebuild. But do I consume basketball, baseball, football the same way I consume soccer? No way. I mean, I'm not watching a whole bunch of other football games, for example. I'll watch the teams that I care about, and that's it. Whereas with soccer, I'm going to watch Bermuda and Haiti. I'm going to watch a women's World Cup match. I'm going to watch teams that I'm not, emotionally attached to because I enjoy the game. So that's me. But that's the thing, is that it's not everybody, and it doesn't have to be everybody. Like, now, the difference with soccer now as opposed to a decade ago and more is you can do that. I mean, you don't have to have a large satellite behind your house and know all the coordinates to find this stuff. You don't have to know which pub will put games on for you and which pub has that satellite to be able to do these things like I did in the past. Like, now it's, okay, I have to make sure I have the right cable package if I want to get certain games, but even if I don't, I can get pretty much a game at any time, and that's not even including an ESPN Plus or a Fanati's or whatever. So it's just so much easier to be, fully invested in all of it and all different aspects of it. And there's plenty of things that I don't watch in the same way that others do. I don't watch the Premier League as much as others. I'll keep up with what's going on in the league, and I'll consume the highlights, and I'll know the storylines, and I'll watch the big games, but I'm not watching a random match between, Everton and West Ham. I'm just not that interested. Others are. That's cool.
That's about my limit. If it's Everton and West Ham, I will not watch it. I might watch it for 15 or 20 minutes, and then it's like, yeah, I'm done. But I will watch the Premier League. I will watch Liga MX. I will watch the tournaments as much as I can, and the last button on the remote control is my friend in these situations. So I think that's just where I've gravitated, because that's where work is these days. The bulk of the work for me is football, and that's where a lot of my attention is. Jane Amps would love to see the men win 13-0 just to compare the reactions and outrage. # Tuesday Thoughts.
That is funny. Don't think it's going to happen, but yes, I wonder what the celebrations would be and if they would be deemed appropriate, and how people would react if it was the exact same situation. I don't think they would react the same way. I don't. And I said this when was asked about it on 92.9 The Game. I do think the fact that it was the women's national team played into some of the reactions. I think there is, for some reason, a thought that the women are held to a higher standard in terms of being role models and stuff like that. And that's dumb. They're athletes. They're professional athletes. And this team is intensely competitive, and they take what they do very seriously, and they should celebrate when they score a goal in a World Cup. They should also know the implications of it, and that's the only thing that I've said, is that, hey, you grabbed that bullseye and you put it on your back with that type of swagger. And some teams thrive on that, and I think this is a team that can. But are they allowed to do that? Yes, absolutely. They are not held to a different standard. It should be the same conversation, but it wouldn't be, and that's a shame. I think the women's game and women's professional sports in general will only grow when it is treated like a professional sport and not treated differently because of the gender. When we're having conversations about, the NWSL in the same way we have a conversation about MLS, then that's progress. And I think the NWSL will be in a better place when that happens.
Last note on the boards, a little soccer over there from the Garlic Bread Warlord. ESPN's reporting Neymar to Barca. Marca is reporting Neymar to Real Madrid. Prepare for information, disinformation, and insane rumors.
What? Marca in Spain is reporting something to Barca?
ESPN's reporting Neymar to Barca.
Okay.
Marca is reporting Neymar to Real Madrid.
Okay. Neymar might have some other problems he has to deal with first. And I'm rather surprised that I've seen so much of Neymar in commercials still.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
but
look,
for me, Qatar Airways was one of them.
Hold on. Nothing's been proven yet. That needs to be understood. But I'm a little surprised that it's just like nothing is going on because there's definitely some conversations about Neymar's legal situation. So, yeah, he's been in a bunch of different ads. He's in the Nike ad. He's in the Qatar Airways ad. I want to say there's one more. I'm a little surprised those haven't been recut, but I think whoever is interested, because, PSG hasn't worked out. It's been kind of a ridiculous situation all the way around. I don't see a situation where Barca wants to bring him back. I think that would be foolish for them. I could see Real Madrid going after him because Real Madrid just goes after superstars, although I think it would be a bad move for any major club to bring him in at this point. I just don't think he's a good fit, and I don't think he is what he used to be. I wouldn't touch it. It feels like a move that somebody who is trying to become a big club but isn't a big club would make. It doesn't feel like a move that a Barcelona or Real Madrid should make.
Yes. So, but yes, information, disinformation, and rumors are apparently well on their way when it comes to Neymar.
We'll see. All kinds of moves will start to be well on their way. Napoli seems to be linked to everybody, and we'll see who they end up getting because
Hamas
is the new one now. It's going to be a wild summer transfer window, and I think MLS will be a big part of it. Over at soccerdownhere.net later this afternoon, Tafka's, I don't even know what to call this thing yet.
Opus.
Part 1 will be posted. Part 1 of 5.
Awesome.
Part 1 of 5. I am just reporting, sir. Part 1 will be revolved. It's all about MLS and re-envisioning MLS and looking at what MLS can grow into and be. And it's all been from all these different conversations we've had about things like expansion and conference alignments and what that looks like. And that's your topic for part 1. So that'll go up on soccerdownhere.net early this afternoon, and we will post that up when it is available so you can check it out. And we'll talk about a few of the highlights tomorrow on the show, as well as Atlanta United and Columbus, as well as the U.S. men late night tonight against Guyana. We'll get you caught up on all of that tomorrow morning, starting at 9 o'clock on the daily SDH show. Tonight, 6 o'clock, before 6 o'clock, we will have the World Cup date, recapping craziness in Group C at the Women's World Cup today. Who finishes first, who finishes second, who finishes third, where they will go into the bracket for the round of 16. That'll be sometime before 6 o'clock when it gets posted. 6 o'clock, we're going live with pre-match coverage of Atlanta and Columbus in the Open Cup tonight. We'll be live at Hampton and Hudson over in Inman Park if you want to come and hang out. We'll be watching the game on the covered patio. There is trivia tonight, and we will be raffling off a couple of tickets to an upcoming Atlanta United match, the Saturday match against Montreal, if I am remembering correctly. I think I am remembering correctly after the Toronto match. It's the 29th.
June 29th.
Against the Impact.
June 29th.
I do remember
this.
Which
is labeled as an SAT. Yes.
Yes, it's a Saturday.
Impact.
It's an SAT match.
Impact de Montreal.
Yes, all those things. We'll be raffling off a couple of tickets to that, and the proceeds will benefit soccer in the streets. So come hang out with us over at Hampton and Hudson. Listen if you can't hang out with us for pre-match coverage. We'll have post-match coverage as well after the Atlanta-Columbus match finishes up. You can watch that on ESPN+. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for chiming in all morning. We appreciate it. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.